Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the So She Slay Show. I'm Heather.
I'm Chauncey.
And today we have a very special guest who has not only been on our platform, on our social media platforms, we should say, and our blog, but she is here again for the third time with So She Slays to talk about her amazing book, This Is Your Brain on Food. Please welcome Dr. Uma Naidoo.
Hey, thank you so much, Heather and Chauncey. It's always so awesome to talk to the So She Slays ladies. I love it.
Yay!
We're so happy to have you. Thank you so much again for hanging out with us for like the third time and so many more times to come.
I hope so. I hope there are many more opportunities. I always enjoy it.
So tell us more about yourself, who you are, because first of all, I love hearing about you because like I'm a fan. So please tell our audience more about you, please.
Thanks so much, Chauncey and Heather. So I'm Dr. Uma Naidoo. I'm actually a nutritional psychiatrist. I work out of Boston, where I was able to found and direct a clinic in nutritional psychiatry at Mass General Hospital, where I'm on the faculty at Harvard Medical School. But I came to this work in a very interesting way. I'm a trained chef, I'm a physician, and I studied nutrition. And these areas that I really followed because I loved them and I love food and sort of followed my passion for different things came together in a really cool way. I wish I could say it was planned. It wasn't. When I was 5, I wanted to be an astronaut. And that was my little, fantasy. But I was also surrounded by a very large Indian family many of whom were physicians, and some of them were Ayurvedic physicians. So a lot of health and food and love in the family and nurturance, and grew up around that. So I think that definitely influenced me. And when I went into mental health and I was studying the medications, I realized that there had to be more to the tools in our toolkit around mental health care, because there were so many devastating side effects. And while medications are necessary and life-saving, I think that people need more options, and food and nutrition are an easy way to that, with lifestyle measures, are an easy way. So I really started to think about it more deeply, do some research, and explore ways to talk to those areas with my patients. And that's really how the idea and my interest grew over time.
That's great.
I love that so much.
I know, right? I feel like, your book references you as a triple threat when it comes to this kind of stuff. And Chauncey and I talk about it all the time, and we would have never, ever put, food, mental health, and all of that together. And I don't think a lot of other people would either. I don't think people put the correlation together. So can you help us put that correlation together?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I'm happy to. You're absolutely right. We're very used to talking to our doctors or nurses or our prescribers about a family history of diabetes, losing a few pounds, how to eat better to lower cholesterol. But no one is actually talking about the brain or how our emotional health is affected. Yet the brain is one of the most important, if not the most, I'm a little biased, the most important organ in the body, because it runs everything, right? It actually coordinates everything else. And many people might say, oh, I feel like this when I eat something, but the connection really has not been fully fleshed out until research around the gut-brain connection came about. And now more and more, it's really pointing to the fact that how we eat is impacting our emotional health because of this gut-brain connection. Because although the gut and the brain are far apart in the body, they come from the same cells in the embryo when we're developing. And so they separate out and they grow to different parts and areas of the body, but they originate from the same cells. And then there's the 10th cranial nerve, the vagus nerve, which connects those two parts of the body throughout our lives. And I like to call it this two-way superhighway because it's bi-directional flow of messages that are happening. And when you think about it that way, our food that is being digested is going to then create some messages that get transmitted. And so that is a super simple way of talking about it, but it grasps the concept that I want to share with people, that there's many more chemical details and neurotransmitter details and the gut lining and all of that, but that's all in the book, and it's laid out in a way that you can follow. But the other important thing is to understand about the gut-brain connection is that, we call serotonin the happiness hormone, and selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors like Prozac work, through those receptors. But 90% or more of those receptors are right in the gut. So when people put those few facts together, they realize, gee, there must be a way that what I'm eating impacts my emotional health. And I think that's important for people to grasp, because then they realize that at any time that they're eating something, it can affect you in a good way or not a good way. And so it becomes an important part of the dialogue for emotional health.
I mean, have you noticed yourself, like, have you took a step back and were just kind of like, okay, this is how I feel when I eat this, or maybe if I, don't eat this, I get more, I mean, like, what are your experiences?
Absolutely. And some of it came when I was in treatment, because I had always noticed, my emotional sort of, maybe being a psychiatrist, I paid attention to it. I noticed how I felt if I ate something that was not so healthy versus times when, my eating was cleaner and just, more leafy greens and all the stuff that I would prefer to be eating. And it really was brought home for me my first day of chemotherapy, which was that I really had discovered a lump and had gotten diagnosed and started treatment in such a short time that it was almost as though my emotions hadn't caught up with my physical body. So in the morning of my treatment, I realized that I was unusually anxious. I fortunately don't struggle with anxiety usually, and I couldn't sleep. I could feel it. And what brought it home for me was in that moment I realized, this is something I talk to people about all the time, and it's so different to be in the patient role. So what can I do? I brought it back to myself in that moment, and realized that the one thing I could control was my food. I couldn't control what was scaring me and making me anxious was the medications I was going to face that day. Yes. All the needles and all the medications. And because I knew the side effects and I knew them very well. So I was worried about that, and realized the way I could take my power back was that I could manage how I was feeling through how I was eating. So right there and then, I started back with my, turmeric tea and my taking my smoothie and eating in a way to start quelling my anxiety. And to the extent that, Heather and Chauncey, when I went in weekly for my treatments, my doctors and nurses would ask, well, what did you bring to eat today? And, because they would do this checklist of symptoms, and yes. I had very few side effects. So it taught me that I could, it wasn't a lesson I would wish upon anyone, but that was the lesson I was given. And I chose to take from it that I could control my emotional well-being through how I was eating, especially at that time. I really upped my game, especially then.
Yeah, you upped your game. And everyone knows that you are a cancer survivor, and that is a blessing. And for you to fix your own mental health with what you're eating, being prepared for such a treatment that you weren't expecting to have, is something that we all should be proud of, because you don't know how food affects you. Certain foods really do change your life in a good way. If you have anxiety, you're saying, you woke up that morning not knowing what was going to happen next in your life. And if you can have the power of control over food to make sure you have some kind of control over your body, that's amazing.
Well, did you also take her tip too, Chauncey, about sleeping?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Okay, so I talked to her, our wonderful doctor, I think it was a few weeks ago, back in October, and I have really bad insomnia. Heather knows this. I think everyone in my family knows this. I have the anxiety, insomnia that can just go crazy. And I would, of course, take melatonin or take, any type of melatonin pills to make me go to sleep. Or I'll have, of course, like everyone says, a nightcap, what the adults call it, but it's a glass of wine. Adults call it a nightcap. I call it my glass of wine while watching Golden Girls on Hallmark.
Of course.
That's what I like to do around 8:00, 9:00. But then, talking to you, you're like, no, try the cherry tart little drink. And I was like, ooh, I love tart. I love tart. Everyone knows that. But cherry tart, I was like, oh my God, no. But I was like, let me try it. I got to try something else with melatonin in my little wine. Okay. So I asked my dad, my dad, loves Sprouts. He's a big Sprouts advocate.
Okay.
So I was like, Dad, when you go to Sprouts, can you get me some cherry tart juice? And Sprouts, by the way, Sprouts is like the Whole Foods. It's like a smaller version of like Whole Foods in the Bay Area, in California, in the Bay Area. Okay. And then he got me a little mini cherry tart little bottle. And I was like, it didn't smell so pleasing at first. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, because it's tart.
Don't smell it.
I couldn't help it. So I was like, ooh. And then so I took like a shot of it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, it's tart, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be, but it was tart. But not as
But the good thing is there wasn't added sugar in it, which is good.
Yeah,
that's
so
good.
that was, that's the healthy version, because
that's a healthy version.
I love sugar. So I took a sip of it, and then I was like, okay. And I was like, this doesn't taste that bad. I took it like a shot. I was fine. And then literally a couple hours later, I went to sleep. I did not wake up in the middle of the night like I always do. I was able to sleep, tell my alarm. It wasn't me like waking up like, oh my God, it's 6:30. I have to get ready for work. It was just like a nice, easy sleep. I had very peaceful dreams. And I tried it again. I ran out, by the way, but I tried it again, and it's been like amazingly great.
I'm so happy to hear that, because, firstly, people always ask, where do you get it? How can you get it, right? Because tart cherries are actually a thing. They're actually a fruit. Yeah. It's not just, you can't replace it with regular cherries. But
I wish
but the other thing is that it's also what you just said, Chauncey, that food is powerful, and that, we can sometimes be a little afraid, well, how could I react to it? But if you take a little bit, you've tried it, you're not allergic to it, it now actually helped you. That's where food really gives us these options, right? Because unless you have an allergy or an intolerance, this is within our reach, unlike the power over us. And I've been a patient of that prescription pad. I'm not, of course, that prescriptions are necessary and all of that, but it's a choice that we can make, and I think that's what I love about that, hearing that too.
Because like I have fibromyalgia, and that's like, your body hurts a lot. Yeah. And I also have anxiety. So, insomnia goes in with all that great stuff. Yeah. And I realized, like, not only just like, hearing from my doctors over the years, like, you need to take this medicine for this part, but also like, my dad telling me, and, reading your book, food has really helped heal me better. Like, it has healed my body. Like, I know when I'm eating bad. Like, for instance, I love sugar. Heather knows this. I'm a dessert. I love a dessert.
And it's even worse because it's the holiday.
Yes, I was going to say that. So like, I know on the holiday season, I'm going to eat a bunch of dessert, and I'm so excited for next week, in the next couple weeks. And then my birthday's in January, so I'm super excited. It's like dessert.
And like from November.
Yeah, really, it's really a bad time for our family. From November to end of January, it's birthdays, holidays. So I know I eat a lot of sugar, and like I know when I eat too much sugar, my body gives out. I feel very inflamed and very like inflammation. I feel very like foggy, and I feel very like, irritable. I'll say irritable. Yeah. And so with the holiday, with the holidays coming up, how can myself and other people get ready for like what should we do to make sure our mental health is good, especially our holidays this year, like Heather and I were discussing, it's a little different than the previous holidays.
So I think that's a great question. And I think it's especially important to be asking that now, because I would much rather us go in with our eyes open to the holiday season, like you're talking about, than be regretful and upset in January. Let's just embrace it. Let's just find a way to help it, to help ourselves through this, and to figure out what we can do. I'm a big believer that for the things that may be, there are a few things we should know in a 24-hour period. Our gut bacteria change, and they respond to the foods that we eat. So you don't feel it immediately, but those changes start to happen in a good way or a not good way immediately. And when you talk about feeling inflamed, and that feeling, it's actually real, because what's starting to happen is over time, if you have a somewhat indulgent holiday, birthday season, there's likely going to be that added sugar. My feeling about it is, why not we also think about ways to offset that eating, right? And what I mean by this is, can you be including in your everyday the prebiotic foods, the probiotic foods, some fermented foods, right? Because there's several meals in a day, and you're going to be having whatever you're having over the holidays, but can you think about a healthy breakfast? Can you have a good salad, some good vegetables, fruit as part of that day? So instead of us thinking about this all and none kind of way that we can sometimes envision things, why not mix it up? Why not say, okay, I'm going to indulge as you described, Chauncey, but these are the good things I'm going to do for myself. I'm going to keep well hydrated. I'm going to maybe every other cocktail or glass of wine, I'm going to have a glass of water because that's going to hydrate me. By the way, that'll help, reduce my anxiety, because when we're dehydrated, right, we can feel more anxious and more stressed. So a good tip to know over the holidays. If you're having a cocktail, have the one that you like, but then maybe switch it out with a cleaner cocktail, because the simple syrup is sugar. The added liqueurs are not helping us. So have the one you like, but then the next time switch it out to, a cleaner cocktail or a glass of wine or something that way. I think that where it does affect sleep, maybe early in the day, or at least know that your sleep could be a little disrupted, and plan for that. Those are some of the ways to think about it. And remember that there are foods like fiber. And I know people think when they hear the word fiber, they think of, think of my late grandmother and what she would be having. But exactly. Here's the thing, ladies. Everyone in the US thinks we're deficient in protein, but we're actually not eating enough fiber. And all we have to do is eat our vegetables, our fruit. I'm not asking you to drink the Metamucil. Vegetables, fruit, beans, nuts, seeds, legumes, healthy whole grain. Just add those in,
And you'll be fine.
So exactly, just add those in, put it in a smoothie, put it in a salad, add it to a soup. Just have those, because those are that's a great way entering the holidays to just nurture your gut. And that's what's really starting to feel inflamed when your body starts to feel inflamed. It's that dysbiosis in your gut. So I would say every single day, okay, just build in some healthy habits and just make that be part of the plan, instead of I don't like people to have to regret and not feel good about this. Just go in with a plan, like these ideas. Think about your color of the rainbow, think about fiber-rich foods, not the Metamucil, think about the prebiotic foods, the allium family, think about fermented foods that you're adding in. I have a recipe for miso sweet potatoes, and sweet potatoes are, part of our Thanksgiving, but why not add miso, which is a fermented food? You can even, so you can break it down in terms of meals, in terms of ingredients, and you can also think, well, how about I switch out a little bit of what my usual sides are with the same sides, but think about healthy twists. Adding miso adds a fermented food to a sweet potato. And what happens is it crusts up really deliciously. It's an unusual recipe, but it's super, super delicious. And I'm not saying it's going to replace someone's sweet potato side dish, but it's one way of just thinking about this differently and sort of planning ahead.
I love that. It's like healthy alternatives to what you really can always have, but instead of cutting out, your favorite cocktail or your favorite like side dish, or mashed potatoes, or there's other things you can add to the ingredients to make it more healthier.
Absolutely. And with mashed potatoes, research has shown that when you cook the potatoes, allow them to cool, there's a way in which the formation of the starch is actually good, and it becomes a more resistant starch. So there's a tip right there, just the way that is prepared, right, and allowing them to cool and then reusing them. So they say, oh well, leftover mashed potatoes is a good idea. So just think about those ways that we can sort of up our food game, right? I would much rather people go on with their eyes open and say, hey, I'm having my favorite cocktail, but then guess what, I'm going to have white wine after that, and I'm going to switch it out with a nice glass of water, but I'm not going to have to give it up. But I'm also building in every day some really, and all of the foods I mentioned reduce your stress, right? Because they're bringing back the healthy fiber, they're bringing back polyphenols, antioxidants, all these things that your gut needs and also that your brain need. So, it's all of that is good. And then cutting back on switching out the cocktail, right? Even that, just cutting back on those added sugars is helping you as well.